The chamber was silent except for the quiet hum of translation devices. 17 species sat in the great circular hall of Terminus Prime, the massive space station that floated above the neutral world of Sanctum. Each species had sent their most important leaders. The air felt heavy with fear. High Arbitrator Velmora stood at the center podium. She was old, even by the standards of her people, the Vel. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the soft light. She had lived for 3,000 years and had seen many crises. But nothing like this. The reports are confirmed, Velmora said, her voice steady but grave. 12 star systems have been consumed. The void plague continues to advance. A hologram appeared above the podium. It showed the edge of the galaxy where darkness was spreading like ink in water. Red markers indicated lost worlds. Yellow markers showed planets that would be next. There were too many yellow markers. Ambassador Kang Jiwoo sat in the human delegation section. He was a small man with gray hair and calm eyes. Next to him sat Dr. Park Yoonji, a woman in her 40s who specialized in alien biology. Behind them, Captain Han Minho stood in his Navy uniform, his hands clasped behind his back. They had been members of the Galactic Council for only 80 years. The humans were still considered newcomers. Commander Thex of the Draconid Empire rose to speak. He was massive, with scales that gleamed like polished bronze. His species were warriors, proud and strong. "We sent our best fleet to study the plague," Thex said. 3 ships entered the affected zone. None returned. Not even their signals. They simply ceased to exist. Murmurs filled the chamber. Fear was spreading faster than the plague itself. A representative from the Krath Collective spoke next. The Krath were logical beings, their bodies crystalline and their minds like living computers. "Our analysis is complete," the Krath said. "The phenomenon cannot be stopped. It does not destroy matter in conventional ways. Matter simply stops existing where the plague passes, no debris, no energy signature, nothing." Dr. Park Yoonji leaned forward in her seat. She had read all the reports during their journey to Terminus Prime. The plague made no sense by any known physics. It was as if reality itself was being erased. "What about evacuation?" someone asked. Velmora's expression darkened. "We have calculated the expansion rate. If the plague continues at its current speed, it will reach the core worlds in 6 months. We do not have enough ships to evacuate even 1% of the population from the affected systems." The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in their native languages. Some demanded action. Others spoke of last stands. A few simply wept. Captain Han Minho watched it all with quiet eyes. He had served in Earth's space fleet for 20 years. He had seen combat. He had lost crew members. But he had never seen despair like this. These were the elder races, the species that had built the galaxy's civilization, and they were giving up. "Order," Velmora called out. The noise died down slowly. "We must consider all options. The Science Council proposes a mass evacuation to the Andromeda Galaxy. It would take decades, but some of us would survive." "Run away?" Commander Thex bellowed. "The Draconid do not flee." "Then what do you suggest?" Another delegate snapped. "That we wait here to be erased from existence?" The argument began again. Kang Jiwoo sat quietly, his fingers steepled in front of his face. Dr. Park was reviewing data on her tablet. Captain Han was perfectly still like a statue. Hours passed. The council went in circles. Every solution proposed was torn apart by logic or impossibility. The Vel's technology could not stop it. The Draconid's weapons could not fight it. The Krath's calculations offered no hope. Finally, an elder from the Whisper Collective spoke. His species were ancient, nearly as old as the Vel. "Perhaps," he said softly, "we must accept that this is the end of our galaxy. Let us preserve what we can and leave while we still have time." Silence fell again. It was the silence of defeat. Velmora looked around the chamber. Her ancient eyes passed over each delegation. When she reached the humans, she paused. Kang Jiwoo was standing up. "The human delegation requests permission to speak," Kang said. A few delegates turned to look. Most did not bother. What could the humans possibly offer? They were barely 2 centuries into space travel. They had no ancient wisdom, no powerful weapons, no science that could surpass the elder races. "Speak, Ambassador Kang," Velmora said. Kang Jiwoo stepped forward to the human podium. Dr. Park stood beside him. Captain Han remained standing at attention behind them. "We have listened to every report," Kang began. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber. We have reviewed every analysis. We understand the severity of this crisis. Then you understand we have no options, Commander Thex said impatiently. With respect, Commander, that is not accurate, Dr. Park said. She projected a new hologram into the center of the chamber. It showed the plague's edge in detail, with layers of data the humans had collected. What are we looking at? Someone asked. We believe the void plague is not destroying matter, Dr. Park explained. It is displacing it. Look here, at the quantum readings from the edge. There are fluctuations consistent with dimensional phasing. The Krath delegate leaned forward. Impossible. We analyzed the same data. There is no pattern. There is a pattern, Dr. Park insisted. It is just not a pattern any of us have seen before, because it is not natural. We believe this is an artificial phenomenon. The chamber erupted again. Artificial? Created by whom? For what purpose? Belmora raised her hand for silence. What are you suggesting, Dr. Park? We are suggesting that if it can be created, it can be controlled, Kang Jiwoo said. And if it can be controlled, it can be stopped. Ridiculous, someone shouted. The elder races have tried everything. Then let us try something new, Captain Han said. His voice was deep and steady. We do not have your ancient knowledge or your powerful technology. But we have something else. We have a different way of thinking. Arrogance, Commander Thex muttered. Determination, Captain Han corrected calmly. Kang Jiwoo looked directly at Belmora. The ancient arbitrator stared back at him. In her eyes, he saw thousands of years of wisdom. But he also saw something else. Curiosity. What is humanity proposing? Belmora asked. The chamber went completely silent. Every translator device, every breathing apparatus, every movement stopped. They waited. Kang Jiwoo took a breath. Dr. Park stood beside him. Captain Han stood behind him, and humanity spoke with one voice, leave it to us. For a moment nobody moved. Then the chamber exploded with noise. Delegates jumped to their feet. Some laughed. Some shouted in anger. The idea was absurd. Humanity. The youngest species claiming they could solve what the elder races could not? But Belmora did not laugh. She did not shout. She simply looked at the three humans standing before her, and in their eyes, she saw something the elder races had lost. She saw hope. And against all logic, against all wisdom, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, that might be enough. The chaos in the council chamber lasted for nearly an hour. Delegates from 17 species argued, shouted, and demanded explanations. How dare the humans make such a claim? What could they possibly know that the elder races did not? Commander Thex was the loudest. His voice boomed across the chamber like thunder. This is madness. The humans have been in space for less than a century. My people were building starships when humanity was still living in caves. That is precisely why we should listen to them, Belmora said quietly. Her voice was soft, but everyone heard it. The chamber fell silent. Sometimes fresh eyes see what old eyes cannot. But High Arbitrator, a Krath delegate protested, our calculations are absolute. There is no solution to this problem. The mathematics are clear. Dr. Park Yoonji stepped forward. She looked small compared to many of the alien delegates, but she stood with confidence. Mathematics can only account for what we know. What if there are variables you have not considered? Such as? The Krath asked skeptically. Dr. Park activated another hologram. This one showed streams of data flowing in complex patterns. We have been studying the plague's edge for 3 months. Our ship, the Resilience, conducted deep space analysis from a safe distance. What we found is unusual. Engineer Lee Do-hyun emerged from the back of the human delegation. He was young, barely 30 years old, with messy hair and tired eyes. He had not slept in 2 days. The void does not expand uniformly, he explained. It pulses, like a heartbeat. Every 47 minutes it surges forward, then stabilizes. We know this already, someone said dismissively. But do you know why? Lee Do-hyun asked. He zoomed in on the data. Look at the quantum signature during each pulse. There is a pattern, a rhythm. This is not random decay. Something is driving it. The Krath delegate studied the data carefully. Its crystalline body flickered with inner light as it processed information. Show me the frequency analysis. Dr. Park shared more files. The Krath was silent for several minutes. Finally it spoke. This is unusual. I had not noticed this pattern before. Because you were looking for natural phenomena. Dr. Park said gently. But this is not natural. Something created this, and if we can understand what created it, we might be able to stop it. Velmora leaned forward in her seat. What do you need? Ambassador Kang Jiwoo spoke again. We need 3 things. First, we need time. 2 months to build and test our prototype. Second, we need resources. Materials, power cores, and construction facilities. Third, we need trust. Trust? Commander Thex laughed bitterly. You ask us to trust you with the fate of the galaxy? Yes, Captain Han Minho said simply. That is exactly what we are asking. Colonel Nam Sora stepped forward. She was a military officer, tall and strong, with scars on her hands from years of combat training. Commander Thex, I understand your doubt. If I were in your position, I would doubt us too. But consider this, what do you have to lose? You have already decided to evacuate. You have already accepted defeat. Let us try while you prepare your escape. If we fail, you lose nothing. If we succeed, you save everything. The logic was sound. Delegates looked at each other. Whispered conversations filled the chamber. Overseer Krath, the leader of the Krath Collective, rose to speak. Its voice was like crystal chimes. I oppose this plan. It is based on hope rather than logic. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is all we have left, Velmora replied. She stood up, her ancient body moving with grace. I have lived for 3,000 years. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have seen impossible things become possible. The humans are right about one thing. We have already given up. What harm is there in letting them try? The harm is that we waste time and resources on a doomed effort, Overseer Krath argued. 2 months, Velmora said firmly. We will give humanity 2 months. If they cannot prove their concept works, we proceed with evacuation. But if there is even a small chance they can stop the plague, we must take it. A vote was called. It was close. Many species voted against the proposal, but just enough voted in favor. Humanity had their 2 months. As the council session ended, delegates filed out of the chamber. Many would not look at the humans. A few offered respectful nods. Commander Thex walked past without a word, but his eyes showed something between anger and curiosity. Velmora approached the human delegation. You have made a bold promise, Ambassador Kang. I hope you can keep it. So do we, Kang replied honestly. What is your plan? Velmora asked. Captain Han Minho answered. We will take the resilience to the plague's edge. We will deploy our prototype device, and we will prove that the impossible can be done. And if you fail, then at least we tried, Dr. Park said. That is more than most are willing to do. Velmora studied the humans for a long moment. Why, she asked finally. Why would you risk your lives for a galaxy that barely knows you? You could evacuate with us, survive, start again. Dr. Park smiled sadly. Because that is not who we are. Humans do not run from problems. We run toward them, even when we should not, especially when we should not. Over the next week, the human delegation worked without rest. Engineer Lee Do-hyun assembled a team of scientists. Dr. Yoon Ha-jun, a mathematician, spent days running calculations. Colonel Nam Sora coordinated with military personnel from Earth's fleet. The device they were building had a simple name, the Quantum Anchor Array. The theory was complex, but the idea was simple. Instead of trying to destroy the void, they would stabilize reality around it, pin space-time in place so firmly that the void could not expand. It is like holding a rope, Lee Do-hyun explained to his team. If one person pulls, the rope moves. But if enough people hold it from all sides, it stays in place. We will anchor reality itself. Can it work? Someone asked. I have no idea, Lee Do-hyun admitted. But we will find out. The resilience prepared to depart. Captain Han Minho walked through his ship, checking every system. The ship was not large by galactic standards. It was a human exploration vessel, built for discovery rather than combat. But it was fast and it was tough. His crew gathered in the main bay. 70 people, all volunteers. They knew the risks. They knew they might not return, but not one of them had refused the mission. We are going to the edge of the void, Captain Han told them. We are going to do something that has never been done before. The galaxy does not believe we can succeed. Most of them think we are fools. They might be right. A few crew members chuckled nervously. But I believe in you, Captain Han continued. I believe in humanity. We have always done the impossible. We climbed mountains we were told could not be climbed. We crossed oceans we were told could not be crossed. We went to space when people said we would never leave Earth. And now we will stop a force that is erasing reality itself. Not because it is easy, but because someone has to try. The crew stood straighter. Fear was still there, but so was determination. The Resilience left Terminus Prime the next day. As it pulled away from the station, Captain Han looked at the view screen. Behind them, the Council station grew smaller. Ahead of them, the void waited. No other ships followed them. The humans were alone. Dr. Park stood beside Captain Han on the bridge. "Do you really think we can do this?" she asked quietly. Captain Han watched the stars. "I think we have to believe we can, because if we do not believe, who will? The galaxy thinks we are arrogant." "Maybe we are," Captain Han said. "But arrogance and courage look the same from a distance. The only difference is whether you succeed." The Resilience jumped to faster than light speed. The journey to the void's edge would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to test. 2 weeks before they would find out if humanity's promise was courage or foolishness. In her quarters, Dr. Park reviewed the data again. The patterns Lee Do-hyun had found were real. She was sure of it. But patterns were not answers. They still did not know what was causing the void. They still did not know if their anchors would work. She thought about Earth, about her family, about the billions of people across the galaxy who did not know that their survival depended on one small human ship. The weight of it was crushing. But then she remembered something her grandfather had told her when she was a child. When the task is too big to carry alone, you do not give up. You just start carrying, and hope that others will help you lift it. That is what humanity was doing, starting to carry, hoping others would help. The Resilience flew on through the dark, carrying humanity's promise toward the impossible. The Resilience dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the outer reach system. What Captain Han Minho saw on the view screen made his blood run cold. The void was worse than any image could capture. It was not black like space. Space was full of stars, full of light from distant galaxies. The void was nothing. An absolute absence. Where it touched space, reality simply ended. Stars that had burned for billions of years were gone as if they had never existed. "How far has it advanced since the last report?" Captain Han asked. Lieutenant Choi Min-seok checked his instruments. He was the ship's navigator, a young man with an exceptional talent for spatial awareness. 3 light years in the past 2 weeks, sir." "That is faster than predicted. Time until it reaches the inhabited planets?" 4 months at current speed," Choi Min-seok replied quietly. "Maybe less." Dr. Park Yoonji stood beside the captain. She stared at the void with a mixture of fear and fascination. "Sensors are useless beyond the edge," she reported. "Everything we send in simply stops transmitting. No final signal, no error message, just silence. Like it is erasing information itself," Engineer Lee Do-hyun said. He had been working for 14 straight hours preparing the quantum anchor array. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his hands were steady. "We need to deploy the first anchor within the next 6 hours. While we still have time." The outer reach system was chaos. Evacuation ships filled the space lanes. Refugee vessels, many of them old and barely functional, struggled to reach the jump points. The local authorities were overwhelmed. Millions of people trying to flee. Not enough ships to carry them all. Captain Han watched the evacuation with a heavy heart. "Helm, take us to the deployment zone." "Navigation, I need precise coordinates." "We have to place the first anchor exactly right or the whole array will fail." "Yes, sir," Choi Min-seok replied. His fingers danced across his controls. "Coordinates locked. But sir, we will have to get very close to the void's edge." "How close?" "Within 1,000 kilometers." The bridge crew went silent. That close, if the void suddenly expanded, they would have seconds to escape. "Maybe not even that." "Do it," Captain Han ordered. The Resilience moved forward slowly. The void loomed larger on the screen. Dr. Bae Soo-hyun, the quantum field specialist, monitored her instruments with intense focus. "The quantum readings are going wild," she reported. "I am seeing fluctuations I have never encountered before. It is like reality is fighting with unreality at the boundary." "Can you quantify it?" Dr. Park asked. "Not with any scale I know. This is beyond our physics." Chief Engineer Oh Jin-ha worked in the cargo bay with her team. They were assembling the first anchor node, a device the size of a small car, covered in complex machinery and glowing power cores. Anchor 1 is ready for deployment, she reported over the comm system. But I need to be honest, Captain. We have tested this for exactly 4 days. We have no idea if it will work. Noted, Captain Han replied. Deploy when ready. The Resilience positioned itself carefully. The void was so close now that the view screen showed nothing but that terrible absence. It made everyone on the bridge feel small and insignificant. Deploying Anchor 1, Ojinha announced. The cargo bay doors opened. The anchor node drifted out into space, propelled by small thrusters. As it moved away from the ship, it began to glow with blue light. The quantum field generators were activating. Everyone held their breath. The anchor reached its position. 1,000 kilometers from the void's edge. Lee Do-hyun activated the device remotely. Quantum field is stabilizing. Power levels are good. Anchor 1 is active. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the void recoiled. It was subtle, just a few hundred meters, but the sensors clearly showed it. Where the anchor's field touched the void, reality held firm. The expansion stopped at that point. It is working, Dr. Bay said in disbelief. The anchor is actually working. A cheer erupted on the bridge. Crew members hugged each other. Some cried with relief. They had done it. The impossible was possible. But Captain Han did not smile. One anchor is not enough. We need 48 more to create a complete barrier, and we need to understand what we are really dealing with. Dr. Park was already studying new data. Captain, I'm picking up something strange. There are signals coming from inside the void. Signals. That is impossible, I know. But look. She transferred her readings to the main screen. Waves of data pulsed rhythmically. These are not random. They are organized, like a pattern, like language. The bridge fell silent again. A language? From inside the void? Could it be equipment from the lost ships? Someone suggested. Maybe something survived? No, Dr. Park said slowly. These signals predate any of our expeditions. They have been transmitting for years. Maybe longer. We just never knew how to detect them. Engineer Lee Do-hyun studied the patterns. We need to deploy more anchors. The quantum field they create might make these signals clearer. If something is trying to communicate, we need to know what it is saying. Over the next 3 days, the Resilience deployed 12 more anchors. Each one stabilized a section of the void's edge. The expansion slowed, then stopped entirely in those areas. It was working better than they had hoped. But the signals grew stronger with each anchor. And stranger Professor Im Hyun, the ship's xenolinguist, worked around the clock trying to decode them. She was a small woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. She had learned 14 alien languages during her career. But this was different. It is not a language in any conventional sense, she explained to Dr. Park. It is more like emotions translated into quantum fluctuations, fear, desperation, and something else. A plea for help. Help? Dr. Park repeated. From what? I do not know yet. But whatever is in there, it is aware, and it is suffering. Captain Han called a meeting in the conference room. His senior staff gathered around the table. They all looked exhausted. Working near the void took a psychological toll. The constant awareness that reality could simply end at any moment wore on everyone. We have a decision to make, Captain Han said. The anchors are working. But we are learning that the void might not be what we thought. If there is something alive in there, something trying to communicate, we need to investigate. That would mean entering the void, Colonel Namsora said. She had been running combat drills, preparing her security teams for every possible scenario. Sir, we do not know if that is survivable. I know. But we need answers. We promised the Council we would stop this plague. To do that, we need to understand it. I volunteer, Dr. Bae Soo-hyun said immediately. If we can create a stable corridor using the anchors, I can take a shuttle in. Just far enough to get better sensor readings. Absolutely not, Captain Han said firmly. I will not risk your life on a theory. With respect, sir, you are risking all our lives just by being here, Dr. Bae replied. And I am the only one who can interpret the quantum data in real time. If I see anything dangerous, I will return immediately. The captain looked at his quantum specialist. She was young, barely 28, but brilliant. And she was right. They needed better data. 12 hours, he said finally. You have 12 hours to plan the mission. I want every safety protocol imaginable, and at the first sign of danger you abort. Understood? Understood, sir. The preparation was meticulous. They deployed additional anchors to create a stable corridor. a narrow path into the void where reality was pinned firmly in place. The shuttle was equipped with every sensor they had. Dr. Bay would not go alone. Lieutenant Choi Min-suk would pilot, and Colonel Nam Sora insisted on accompanying them for security. Captain Han watched from the bridge as the shuttle left the Resilience. It looked so small against the vastness of the void. The tiny craft moved slowly into the corridor, blue light from the anchors surrounding it like a protective tunnel. "Shuttle is at the boundary," Choi Min-suk reported. His voice was steady, but Captain Han could hear the tension underneath. Beginning entry into the void, the shuttle crossed the threshold. For 3 seconds all communication was lost. Then Dr. Bay's voice crackled through the speakers. "We are in. I repeat, we are in the void. And you need to see this." She transmitted visual data. The bridge crew gasped. Inside the void was not emptiness. It was full of light. Strange ethereal light that moved like liquid. And in that light there were shapes. Millions of them. Flowing, changing, reaching out toward the shuttle. "What are those?" someone whispered. Dr. Bay's voice was shaking. "I think they are people. Or they were people. A long time ago." Professor Im Haiwan was listening to the signals now. They were deafening inside the void. Wave after wave of quantum data. She closed her eyes, letting the patterns wash over her, searching for meaning. And then she heard it. 3 words repeated endlessly in desperate rhythm. "Help us. We are here. We were like you." The truth hit her like a physical blow. "Captain," she said, her voice barely audible. "The void is not destroying civilizations. It is trapping them. These are the lost. Everyone who ever vanished. They are still here. They have been here all along. And they are screaming for someone to save them." On the view screen, the shapes pressed against the shuttle, not threatening, pleading, and in that moment, humanity understood. This was not a plague to be stopped. It was a prison to be opened. A rescue mission on a cosmic scale. The voice returned. The shuttle returned to the Resilience 3 hours later. Dr. Bae Soo-hyun, Lieutenant Choi Min-suk, and Colonel Nam Sora emerged pale and shaken. They had seen things inside the void that would haunt them forever. Countless beings, trapped between existence and non-existence, aware but unable to act, screaming silently into the darkness. Captain Han Min-ho met them in the docking bay. "Are you all right?" "No," Dr. Bay said honestly. "But we have data." "A lot of it." The senior staff gathered in the conference room once more. Dr. Bay projected images from inside the void. The flowing shapes, the strange light, the quantum readings that made no sense by conventional physics. "These are not ghosts or echoes," she explained. "They are actual beings. Millions of them. Maybe billions. They exist in a state of quantum superposition, neither alive nor dead, neither real nor unreal." Professor Im Hyun had been working non-stop to translate the signals. Her eyes were red from exhaustion, but her voice was clear. "I have decoded enough to understand the basic message. These beings are what remains of an ancient civilization. Millions of years ago, they tried to transcend physical reality. They wanted to exist as pure energy, free from the limitations of matter." "Let me guess," Engineer Lee Do-hyun said grimly. "The experiment failed, catastrophically. Instead of transcending, they became trapped in a dimensional fold, a pocket of unreality. They have been there ever since, caught between dimensions, unable to exist in either one fully." Dr. Park Yoon-ji leaned forward. "And the void plague? The expansion?" "That is them trying to escape," Professor Im said. "For millions of years they have been reaching out, trying to pull themselves back into reality. But they cannot do it alone. Every time they try, they tear at the fabric of space. Whatever they touch phases out of normal reality and into their prison. They are not trying to destroy our galaxy. They are drowning and pulling everything down with them." The room was silent as everyone absorbed this information. "So we cannot just seal them away," Captain Han said slowly. "We have to free them. We have to bring them back into reality." "Yes," Dr. Park confirmed, "but the energy requirements would be enormous. The Resilience's power core is not nearly enough. We would need—" She paused, running calculations. "We would need the combined power output of hundreds of ships, maybe thousands." "The Galactic Council will never agree to that," Colonel Nam Sora said. "They barely agreed to let us try in the first place." Captain Han stood up. "Then we will have to convince them. With evidence. We need to show them what is really happening here." He activated the long-range communication system. It took several minutes to establish a connection with Terminus Prime. When Velamora's image appeared on the screen, she looked tired. The weight of preparing for galactic evacuation was showing. "Captain Han," she greeted. "Have you made progress?" "High Arbitrator, we have made a discovery. One that changes everything." He spent the next 20 minutes explaining what they had found. He showed her the images from inside the void. The signals. The translation. The truth about what the void really was. Velamora listened without interrupting. Her ancient face showed no emotion, but her eyes were intense. When Captain Han finished, she was silent for a long moment. "You are certain of this?" she asked finally. "As certain as we can be without further investigation. But yes, the Void Plague is not a natural disaster. It is a rescue situation. A rescue of beings who have been lost for millions of years. Beings we did not know existed until now." Velmora's expression was unreadable. "Captain, what you are suggesting would require the cooperation of the entire Galactic Council. Every species would need to commit resources, and there is no guarantee of success." "I know," Captain Han said, "but what is the alternative? We seal them away forever? Leave them to suffer in that prison while we evacuate to another galaxy?" "That would be the logical choice," Velmora replied. But there was something in her voice. A question. A doubt, maybe, Captain Han acknowledged, but it would not be the right choice. These beings made a mistake. A terrible mistake, but they do not deserve to suffer eternally for it. If we can save them, we must try. Velmora was quiet again. Finally, she said, "Send me all your data. I will present it to the Council. But I make no promises, Captain. Most species will see this as impossible and dangerous. Thank you, High Arbitrator. That is all we ask. A chance." The transmission ended. Captain Han looked at his crew. "Get me everything. Every scan, every translation, every piece of evidence. Make it undeniable." Over the next 2 days, the Resilience's crew worked to compile a comprehensive report. Dr. Bay analyzed the quantum mechanics. Professor Im refined the translations. Engineer Lee Do-hyun developed theoretical models showing how a rescue might be possible. Dr. Yoon Ha-jun, the mathematician, worked on the most critical problem: how to restore millions of beings to normal reality without destroying space-time in the process. The equations were brutally complex. He filled digital screens with calculations, cross-checking and recalculating. "It is possible," he announced finally, "but barely. We would need to create a quantum resonance cascade. Essentially, we would synchronize the energy output of hundreds of ships to create a harmonic frequency. That frequency would stabilize the dimensional fold and allow the trapped beings to phase back into normal space." "How many ships?" Dr. Park asked. "Minimum. 300, ideally. 500 or more. And they would all need to synchronize their power systems perfectly. If even one ship is out of phase, the entire cascade could collapse. Or worse, expand the void instead of collapsing it." The implications were staggering. They were asking the entire galaxy to trust human calculations, to risk their most valuable ships on a theory, to help rescue beings from a civilization no one had ever heard of. It was, by any measure, insane. Back on Terminus Prime, Velmora presented the human findings to the Galactic Council. The chamber was tense. Delegates reviewed the data with disbelief. Overseer Krath spoke first. "This information, if accurate, is extraordinary. But it does not change our situation. We still cannot stop the void. We can only understand it better." "The humans believe they can reverse it," Velmora said. "They have a plan." She explained the quantum resonance cascade theory, the need for hundreds of ships, the synchronization requirements, the risks. The chamber erupted in protest. "Impossible," someone shouted. "We cannot coordinate that many ships from different species. Our systems are incompatible. The risk is too great," another delegate argued. "If the cascade fails, we could make the void worse." Commander Thex stood. The massive Draconid looked at the data for a long time. "How confident are the humans in this plan?" "They estimate a 40% chance of success," Velmora replied. 40%? Overseer Krath's crystalline body flickered with agitation. "That is not acceptable. We would be risking everything on odds worse than a coin flip." "Better than the 0% chance we have now," Velmora said quietly. "We have evacuation." "That is not 0%. Evacuation saves some. This saves everyone, including beings who have suffered for millions of years." The debate raged for hours. Species that had not spoken to each other in centuries now argued about humanity's proposal. Some called it inspired. Others called it suicide. Then something unexpected happened. Ambassador Kang Ji-woo, watching the proceedings from the human delegation area, received a private communication. It was from Captain Rin of the Vel species. Rin commanded a small fleet of scout ships. Ambassador Kang, the message read, I have reviewed the data from the Resilience. I believe your people are correct, and I believe we must help. My ships will join your effort. Kang felt a surge of hope. One alien captain. It was not much, but it was a start. More messages came. Individual captains, scientists, volunteers from different species. Not many, but enough to show that some believed. On the Resilience, Captain Han received a transmission from Dr. Park. She was still on Terminus Prime, attending the council sessions. Captain, it is not looking good, she reported. The council is leaning toward rejection. They are too afraid. Captain Han looked at the void on his view screen. Inside it, millions of beings waited, hoping, praying, screaming silently. He made a decision. Dr. Park, tell the council this. Tell them that the Resilience will attempt the rescue even if no one else joins us. We will deploy every anchor we have. We will push our power core beyond its limits. We will probably fail. We will probably die. But we will try. Because that is what humanity does. We do not abandon people to darkness. Not even people we have never met. Not even people who have been dead for millions of years. We try. The message was relayed to the council chamber. When Velmora read it aloud, the room fell completely silent. Then Commander Thek stood up. The proud Draconid warrior looked around the chamber. His voice was strong, but there was something new in it. Respect. I have called humans arrogant, he said. I have called them foolish. I have doubted their abilities, he paused. I was wrong. They are not arrogant. They are brave. Perhaps the bravest beings I have ever encountered. And if they are willing to die for this cause, then I cannot stand by and watch. The Draconid Empire will send our fleet. This is our galaxy too. One by one, other delegates stood. Not all, but enough. The Vel the Whisper Collective. Even some of the Krath, overriding Overseer Krath's objections. The fleet began arriving 4 days later. It started with a few ships. Captain Rin's Vel scouts, a handful of Draconid cruisers. Then more came, and more. Within a week, 347 vessels surrounded the Resilience at the edge of the void. They came from 17 different species. Each brought their own technology, their own power systems, their own hopes. Captain Han Minho stood on the bridge and watched them arrive with a mixture of awe and terror. This was it. Humanity's promise had brought the galaxy together. Now they had to deliver. Admiral Song Min-jae arrived on a human dreadnought, bringing Earth's expeditionary fleet. She was a stern woman in her 60s, a veteran of humanity's first contact conflicts. She took command of the human contingent while Captain Han focused on coordinating the entire operation. This is the craziest thing I have ever been part of, Admiral Song told him privately. And I once flew a fighter through a comet's tail. Can we do this? Captain Han asked. Admiral Song looked at the assembled fleet. Ships that had never worked together, systems that were incompatible, crews that spoke hundreds of different languages. Honestly, I have no idea, but we are going to try. Engineer Lee Do-hyun faced his biggest challenge yet. He had to coordinate the power systems of 347 ships from 17 different species. Each system operated on different principles, different energy signatures, different everything. He was not alone, though. Grand Engineer Plex of the Krath Collective had joined the effort. The crystalline being was the finest engineer his species had ever produced. Together, Lee Do-hyun and Plex worked 18-hour days, creating interface systems, harmonizing frequencies, building bridges between incompatible technologies. This should not be possible, Plex said during one exhausting work session. Our systems are fundamentally different. Should not be possible is different from impossible, Lee Do-hyun replied. He was running on stimulants and determination at this point. We just need to find the right frequency. The one thing that all energy systems have in common. And what is that? They all vibrate. Everything in the universe vibrates. We just need to make them vibrate together. It was elegant in its simplicity, and brutally difficult in execution. Dr. Park Yoon-ji worked with representatives from every species, establishing communication protocols with the beings trapped in the void. They called themselves the Displaced. Through Professor Im Hyewon's translations, the Displaced began to understand what was happening. Hope spread through their prison like light through darkness. One of them, who called itself Seeker, became their spokesperson. It took tremendous effort for Seeker to communicate across the dimensional barrier. Each message cost it dearly, but it persisted. "We have waited so long," Seeker's translated message read. "We had given up hope. We thought the universe had forgotten us. But you remember. You care. Why?" Dr. Park composed her response carefully. "Because you are people. And people do not abandon people. Your species is young. Why do you risk yourselves for ancient ghosts? Because it is right. And because we believe the impossible can be done." There was a long pause. Then Seeker replied, "We will help however we can. Guide us. Tell us what to do." That was when they realized something crucial. The displaced were not just victims to be rescued. They could be active participants. They understood the void's nature better than anyone. They could help stabilize the resonance from the inside. Dr. Yoon Ha-jun revised his calculations. With the displaced's cooperation, the success probability jumped from 40% to 73%. It was still a risk, but it was a much better one. The final preparations took another week. During that time, something remarkable happened. The different species began working together naturally. Human engineers shared ideas with Krath technicians. Draconid security forces trained with Vel scouts. Barriers that had existed for centuries began to fall. "Commander," Thex found himself working alongside Colonel Nam Sora. The massive warrior and the human soldier developed a grudging respect for each other. "You humans are strange," Thex told her during a break. "You should be afraid. This plan could kill us all. But you seem almost excited." "We are afraid," Nam Sora replied. "We are terrified. But fear does not stop us. It pushes us forward. That is madness." "Maybe, but it is our madness," Thex laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "I like you humans. You are small and soft, but you have the spirit of warriors." Finally, everything was ready. 347 ships, all synchronized. 49 quantum anchor arrays, positioned in a perfect geometric pattern around the void. The displaced, ready to help from within. And humanity, holding it all together with determination and hope. Velmora arrived on the Resilience for the final operation. She wanted to see it firsthand. If this was the end of the galaxy, she would face it with those who had dared to dream. Captain Han addressed all the ships over the fleet-wide communication system. His voice was calm and steady. "Captains, crews, and honored delegates, we are about to attempt something that has never been done before. We are going to rescue millions of beings from a prison that has held them for millions of years. We are going to collapse a void that has consumed 12 star systems, and we are going to do it together." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Some of you doubted us. That was reasonable. We are young. We are inexperienced. But today, we are not just humans or Draconid or Vel or Krath. Today we are one fleet, one purpose, one galaxy, and together, we will perform a miracle." Admiral Song began the countdown. "All ships prepare for power synchronization. Mark on my signal." In engineering bays across 347 ships, crews made final checks. Power cores hummed to life. Energy levels climbed. Synchronization in 60 seconds. Lieutenant Choi Min-seok monitored the navigation systems. Every ship had to maintain its exact position. Any deviation could disrupt the cascade. 45 seconds. Engineer Oh Jin-ha watched her instruments with fierce concentration. The Resilience was the coordination hub. If their systems failed, everything failed. 30 seconds. Inside the void, the displaced gathered. Millions of beings ready to push from their side as reality pulled from the other. 15 seconds. Dr. Bai Su-hyun held her breath. The quantum readings were perfect. Everything was aligned. Now they just needed it to work. 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7. Captain Han looked at Velmora. The ancient being's eyes met his. She nodded once. "Trust. 3, 2, 1. Synchronize." 347 ships released their power in perfect harmony. The quantum anchor arrays blazed with light. Energy cascaded through space in waves, creating a frequency that resonated across dimensions. The void screamed. Reality itself shuddered as two states of existence collided. The carefully synchronized power grid held. Barely. Ships strained against their limits. Warning alarms blared across the fleet. Then 3 Draconid ships suffered cascade failures. Their power cores couldn't maintain the frequency. The synchronization began to collapse. "We are losing them," someone shouted. Engineer Ojinha did not hesitate, rerouting the Resilience's entire power grid to compensate. "That will burn out our core," Li Doyan warned. "Then we burn." Ojinha snapped, her hands flying across controls. The Resilience shuddered as its power core pushed beyond designed limits. Warning lights flashed red throughout the ship. But the synchronization held. At 3 seconds to completion, the quantum field destabilized. The cascade began to invert. Instead of collapsing the void, it was expanding it. Dr. Bae-Suhyun saw it happening in her readings. She had maybe 2 seconds to fix it. No time to calculate. No time to check. Just intuition and desperate hope. She input a series of adjustments based on human chaos theory, calculations that no Krath computer would ever make. Because they were not purely logical. They were intuitive, feeling as much as thinking. The field stabilized. Light exploded across space, not destroying the void but transforming it. The darkness began to glow. And from that glow, beings emerged. The displaced were returning. They came as pure energy at first, flowing like liquid light. Then slowly they took form. Not their original forms, but new ones. Beautiful and strange. They were beings of energy wrapped in physical shells, existing in both states simultaneously. Millions of them filled the space where the void had been. And as they emerged, the void collapsed inward, condensing into a stable quantum structure. Where death had spread, a new nebula formed, swirling with colors that had never existed before, teeming with exotic matter and infinite possibilities. The screaming stopped, and in its place came a sound that every species heard regardless of their method of perception. Gratitude. The displaced were free. Seeker approached the Resilience. Its form was like a star-given consciousness. When it spoke, everyone heard it in their minds. "You did not abandon us to the dark. You reached into the void and pulled us back to the light. We will remember the ones called humanity. We will remember all of you. What you did here today, you did not just save us. You saved yourselves. You proved that when you stand together, nothing is impossible." The fleet hung in space, exhausted but triumphant. Ships from 17 species, battered and strained, but intact. And before them a miracle. Life born from death. Hope salvaged from despair. Velmora stood beside Captain Han on the Resilience's bridge. She was crying,